Hello and welcome back to Savage Garden, an Anne Writer's Immortal Universe podcast sampling immortality one morsel at a time. I am Kat and I am, as ever, joined by my companion, Naomi. And today we are back discussing season two and we are looking at episode five. Don't be afraid, just start the tape, which. IMDb fans, I know there's like one of you out there that's listening to this that's interested. Uh, third, it's the third ranked
Third, wow.
episode with a rating of 8.9. So, and I know that because this is the episode where we kind of find out about the first interview. And I guess some could argue it's a bit of a filler, it's a flashback episode. But I kind of think that maybe there's a little bit more going on than perhaps we remembered that on our first viewings. Would that be right?
Yeah, I mean it's a really interesting episode. I mean, this is for many fans their favorite episode. It's not my favorite, but I do think it's a very, very strong episode. When I was rewatching it, I hadn't realized what a chilling episode it is. It's a really interesting because obviously we've been purely in Paris in the 1940s so far. And then we have immediately skipped to the 1970s. If you were watching this from a linear perspective, you were like, wait, where's Claudia? What's happened to Claudia? Why are we talking about Claudia not loving him? All of that sort of thing. And then we are in this very, you know, it's very self-contained. We are in this very dingy 1970s apartment, and we see the real truth of the Armand and Louis relationship. Because as we start the episode, we're back in modern day Dubai, and we have them both being, you know, revoltingly lovey-dovey and or like, oh, I love you, I love you. And I mean, I've written down here, Louis, you're kidding yourself, babes, as he's busy discussing about how his love had taken a less dictatorial approach to the coven. And they're all, my love, my love. And Daniel once more is not buying a single word of this. He's not buying anything at all. And he points out very quickly to Louis that when Louis is talking about, the effortless eternal life ahead of them and that Armand was ignorant of the plotting around him, the way he's phrasing it makes it clear that he's maybe subconsciously not actually talking about Armand. Maybe he's talking about him being a little bit ignorant of the plotting around him. And of course, whenever Daniel picks Louis up on anything, we immediately have Armand coming in and deflecting like a little tiny psychopathic gremlin that he is. I mean, he is so unwell. This is the amount, I mean, the notes that I have for this episode are mostly me just saying, Armand, you are so unwell, just so unwell. And I mean, we already have Armand and Louis being like absolute capitalist kings in this bastion to slavery that is Dubai. And now we are literally hunting human beings for sport.
Yes. Which I think is something that's been in the news recently with people doing just that. But they are people and not vampires. But yeah, it's Armand is having his little snack, but he likes to. I mean, people said that Lestat liked to play with his food. Armand really likes to play with his food. He basically makes them a bet, doesn't he? That, if you can get so far without me catching you, was it Bitcoin? Gets a load of
Yeah,
Bitcoin.
you get all the basically if he makes it to Burj Khalifa, presumably alive, he gets all the crypto he wants. And if he doesn't, well, such is life. And it's things like Louis making excuses for Armand. Oh, well, his methodology is never violent, isn't it? Oh, Louis. And the whole concept that Louis is supposedly, this is the guy that spent years complaining about being a vampire, about having to eat people, and yet he's fine with Armand doing this. And he adopts the sort of approach that Lestat does actually when he's turned, of saying, oh, well, he's only hunting people that deserve it. And if he's not, he's hunting people that are half in love with an easeful death. But it's all just explanations and Louis attempting to salve his own conscience with the terrible things that Armand is doing. But he's quite, I mean, I've always said Louis is the most feral one. He's remarkably unconcerned about Armand out there hunting for his grub. And we have throughout all of this, we have Daniel flashbacking 24/7 like the worst trip in the world, which must be really unfortunate for him. And we finally get Daniel sort of, well, I guess he just kind of loses it, doesn't he? And he's like, look, I need just something for me. I need you, once your boyfriend has vanished off to eat his lunch, I need 20 minutes for me to try and go through what actually happened in 1973 in that first interview when they first met. And this is where we get Louis saying that Armand protected him, protected Daniel, and Armand preserves my happiness, which is such a horrifically chilling line. It's so sort of coercive and horrible and makes him sort of complicit in his own misery. It's just so grim. And then we have Daniel. I mean, Daniel asking if they fucked basically is very entertaining. But also, I mean, can you imagine going through this interview and not knowing if you had sex with the person in front of you? It's such a violation.
I'm trying to think if it'd be worse not knowing or knowing, because it's
Oh, definitely not knowing. Not knowing. I'd rather not know. But I would also rather not have little flashes like Daniel is having of himself as an idiot. And this is when we introduce Luke Brandon Field, who has clearly spent an ungodly amount of time copying young Eric Bogosian because his mannerisms are frankly uncanny.
yeah.
He's very, very impressive. And then yes, we shift immediately from this, very fancy, very shiny Dubai set to this set of what looks like the start of terrible 1970s porno. You've got Louis in his 1970 outfit, all denim with his fro, and trying to, well, sort of not really seduce, but leave Daniel at ease. I mean, that was a lot of drugs in that suitcase, Louis. Like a lot of drugs.
It was the 70s, everyone had drugs.
Yeah, but like Louis had a lot of drugs. Fucking hell. It was like, wow. And we we sort of see like Louis sort of buttering up Daniel to try and get him to talk and to interview him. And the way that Louis shifts throughout the course of this interview is so chilling. He's not in control of it in any way, shape, or form, like the way that he is now. But also, you feel that that's more akin to the real Louis, and that the sort of the very passive, muted Louis that we see in Dubai is the Louis that's kind of had all of his emotions filed off. The one that's been with Armand for so long that he's learnt to be, well, sort of very placid, but also just doesn't feel any highs or depths of emotion in a way. So it's a really fascinating look between the two sort of time frames. And it was a really interesting choice to throw in this sort of look back during the middle of what is that had been building up to be a very passionate season. I mean, as we just left, obviously Santiago had just stolen Claudia's diaries. So we're already building up to a very unhappy plot. We've got the mutiny at the Teatro de Vampire. We've got Santiago plotting against Armand. And then the series takes the time to go back to this episode, which is a very quiet episode, actually. When I was watching it, there's very little score. It's all dialogue. It's such a dialogue heavy episode. The first episode that Sam Reid doesn't physically appear in,
Hmm.
and no Claudia either. No, obviously, no Delaney is in this episode. It feels like a self-contained play, very much a chamber piece between um, Jacob Assad and Luke Brandon Field. And poor old Daniel realizes very quickly that Louis is indeed a vampire and is terrified. Great lines. Are you the Zodiac killer? And I love Daniel being like, well, I really do need way more drugs and fags to be able to continue with this story. Like, you've just shown me you're a natural vampire. It's fine. I'm going to cope with it. I'm going to be fine. But I'm going to
Well,
need.
he's into counterculture, he does
I'm
say.
into counterculture. That was the funniest, cheesiest, crappiest line. That he's just like, oh, you have a coffin. Yeah, I'm into counter. I'm cool. I'm hip. It's like you are in a small, shitty apartment. Um, you have a man in front of you that has more drugs than the local dealer and who can move faster than the speed of light and has fangs, and you're like not afraid, you'd be screaming. And it's like when Daniel says it's just tape after tape of emotional upchuck because this is Louis completely unhinged, doing the first interview with no filter, no Armand present, and all it is tape after tape after tape about Lestat. Because when it comes to it, that's all he cares about. Just multiple adjectives to slag off the man that he's still very clearly in love with. I mean, just insanely in love with. Um, which Eric calls him on. Sorry, Eric, Daniel calls him on. We should call it Daniel Eric and Daniel Luke for this episode. Um, I think they're both great. I mean, Eric Bogosian, I think, is phenomenal in this episode in the present day because we see him being really actively vulnerable in a way that I'm not sure we've seen him before. We've seen physical vulnerability, but I think this is the first time we really see his emotional vulnerability and the first time he ever shows a degree of fear. And he's also very astute. I mean, it's like he calls like he says that he didn't realize what a dangerously unstable psyche he was in the room with. Which, I mean, honestly, I kind of feel you should have sussed that like pretty much the moment he said he was a vampire, but you know, I feel like he just really wanted to fuck him and enjoy his drugs.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that throughout all of the bit in the 70s, Louis keeps calling Daniel boy.
Yes, he does throughout. And it's obviously it has obviously it's like a reclamation of a racist uh
Mm.
comment because that is probably we've seen it. We've seen it in the series that all of the white racist morons back New Orleans would call Louis boy all the time, as well as obviously a reference to their significant age difference, which Daniel doesn't know. Daniel just thinks he's, a cute guy and has got his top off in 2 seconds flat. Daniel, you absolute slut. I mean, I don't know what he thought he was going to do with his top off. Like, if we're going to strip, at least strip. But, as he said, he was down. Then the drugs appeared and he was happy. But then we have, I mean, Louis in 1970s Louis describing Claudia leaving on the train and being actively suicidal is horrifying to listen to. It's very, very, very distressing. And of course, Daniel has no ability to be able to handle this. He's not emotionally mature enough to handle this. Plus, as we've just said, he's on a fuck ton of drugs. I mean, the man's not going to be wise when he's on a large quantity of drugs. So, of course, we get the horrific cheese of him, saying you don't understand the meaning of your own story and asking to be his Claudia, be his Lestat, and Louis responding rather badly indeed. Which I did enjoy Daniel's line of, if you're speaking to someone on a suicide line, don't say to the other person, cheer the fuck up. But I agree that trying to kill him was a little bit harsh. I agree with that. And then obviously we get the big reveal that Daniel left the tape running after he had been attacked by Louis. And we get the remainder of Louis and Armand's argument, which has to be the most memed argument ever. I mean, the line, "You're a liar, Daniel, so are you, Louis," I've heard repeated a lot. And I think Daniel is a liar, but I don't think that Louis is a knowing liar. Or, well, he embellishes. Louis is the same as all of us. He tells things to make himself look good. So the fight isn't as one-handed as he makes it out, but of course he's not going to say that, because why would you? And of course he's fibbed or embellished a little about Claudia's transformation because he wants to wash his hands of part of it. It's not that he is an outright liar and that everything he said so far has to be disregarded, which is this weirdly black and white way that some people take these things. It's more that, I think that there is just so much going on in his head, and he's trying to pass the truth from the lies all the time. And it means that he's not even that conscious sometimes of the things that he's telling Daniel are just, well-rehearsed lies. He's been under coercive control for so long that he's just repeating things. And I mean, the argument is brutal. I mean, I've seen so many people do it on TikTok now, so many people miming to it. Everyone's incredible. My favorite is the Asian gentleman. I think you've sent him to me a few times. There's one where he's vacuuming up 2 piles of ass. He's brilliant. And he's like, "Oh yes, I'm so sorry that happened to you. It's dreadful that Lestat did that to you, and only Lestat." he's just absolutely hilarious. Yeah, I mean, where do you even start with the lines in this argument? I mean, Armand appears, saves Daniel from Louis, and then just launches that Louis is on his annual fuck off and find me. Fantastic. So this whole myth of them being super lovey-dovey, I mean, no, absolute bullshit. At this point in the 70s, they clearly, if they don't hate each other, they have grown into kind of a mutual apathy, I suppose. As best way of putting it. Like, I don't doubt that Louis loved Armand, because Louis always loved Lestat, but Louis loved Armand at some point. But at some point, equally over the decades, that has turned into claustrophobia, because I imagine that having someone that is very happy to look after your every whim is very nice in theory, but probably slightly terrifying in practice, because it means that he can't go out, he can't fuck up, he can't do anything, because Armand is always there, always there, always there. So Armand is at home, as he puts it, picking lint off the sofa, while Louis is out there breaking the great laws, because he's picked Daniel up, he's revealed his existence to a human being, and he's let Daniel record their life history, which are 2 different things that he could get killed for, and he knows that. And all Louis does is attack Armand's character. I mean, boring, flavorless, dull as fuck suffocation by the world's softest, beigest pillow. I mean, we have to give it to Armand that that line doesn't just like gut him. I feel like if somebody said that to me, I would cry for a month. And that's like, it's not even getting started, this argument.
Hmm.
I mean, that's like the opening salvo. Then we have Armand coming back, just, sorry, Louis absolutely brutally mocking Armand's background and his role being, pimped out. My vampire daddy groomed me into being a little bitch. Louis, no, this is not how we talk about childhood sexual
Oh,
enslavement. This is not appropriate. I mean, I appreciate that this is your husband effectively, but this is no. I mean, again, I like if I was, but I mean, Armand takes it. Armand takes that argument. It has to be said. He immediately launches into to mocking Louis with, you know, my sister was my brother was my all the rest of it, and then just the Lestat, 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 Lestat. Poor Armand. I mean, there is this very small, and I have to say, very, very small part of me that from the beginning has just felt terrible for Armand, that these are two people that were never emotionally on the same place. Because as soon as Louis said he wasn't his companion, that should have been it. Should have
yeah.
walked away. Instead, he just willingly embraced decades of emotional humiliation with a man that loves him in some way, but not the way he needs to be loved.
Yeah, but he does get to hold it over Lestat that he has been with Louis for the decades, and I feel that Armand is petty enough that that's kind of enough.
I know, but I want to be like, Armand, babes, like, really? That's literally been enough for you to fuel your existence for these 70 plus or whatever, 80 plus years. The simple fact that you get to fuck Louis and Lestat doesn't. And I guess that Louis also thinks that Lestat is an absolute monster throughout all of that time that murdered their child. That's not healthy. I feel like Armand would have had a much better time just hanging with Daniel. I feel like Daniel matches Armand's freak. I don't feel like Louis ever matched Armand's freak. I feel that part of their problem is that they were always cosplaying this master slave dynamic, which was only, and that never worked because there was never a single second that Armand wasn't in control.
Hmm.
I mean, the sub has all of the power in that dynamic anyway, but I don't feel like there was ever a second that Armand wasn't in control of every single situation he's ever been in. And if that's really what you're looking for, well, is there's that sort of submission. Well, he wasn't achieving that with Louis. God knows what he's got going on with Daniel. Like, I'm not a devil's minioner. All the love and total respect to all the wonderful fans out there who are, but I do feel that if there is any interest, it's much more exciting to do it with Armand and modern day Daniel, with it being a sad and Eric Bogosian than past, because I think it's so rare to kind of see elder queer representation on screen.
Hmm.
Plus, Eric is literally the only, well, out queer member of the cast. I love that there is literally nothing that man hasn't done and will tell you about if you go back and read his plays and everything else. It's extraordinary. But yeah, the absolute brutal. I mean, it's one of the most brutal arguments I've ever seen. I was just like, why are you two people with each other? If you're calling, one of you is calling the other one boring as fuck and mocking the fact that he was raped as a child, and the other one is just basically destroying every single aspect of your life by going, oh, he never treated me kindly. Very good impressions by Assad there. Exceptional work, pure diva. But I mean, the brutality of saying Claudia didn't love you, not like I do, not like he did. He is literally using Lestat's love of Louis to attack him.
Mm.
So cruel, just absolutely cruel. And then we go on to obviously Louis hearing for the first time that he ran outside.
Yeah.
And we're not really clear. I mean, and it does appear to be that concept that Claudia didn't love him, that his child that he is grieving didn't love him as much as Armand and Lestat, that causes him to run outside. And I mean, Claudia is such a complex character, which is what I love about her. I mean, I feel that a central part of Louis' storyline for the next series is probably going to be him coming to terms with the reality of who Claudia was rather than who he romanticizes her to be in his memories. Because I mean, she was a wonderful, complex, fierce 40s something or other who was desperate for a life of her own without two mentally ill gay parents dragging her down.
Yeah.
I mean, Louis never put her first. He tried his best, but you know, he was in love. He never put her first. And by the time they were in Paris in that one bedroom apartment, they were sick to the fucking sight of each other. He was done. He was like, I've killed my husband for you. You're never happy. I've now got myself a cute romance, and now you're causing problems. You've joined this coven. Everything's causing me a hassle. Can you just fuck off with Madeline for a while so I can have cute summer fling with Hot Boy and then I'll just go somewhere else? And of course, that doesn't happen because what happens is horrifically traumatizing and sets the course of his entire life. But, you know, Claudia was, you know, a brilliant, challenging vampire. I don't have any qualms whatsoever about her having lied in the diaries. She was smart enough to know that they were reading them. Why wouldn't she lie to Louis to get him to kill Lestat? She needed to get out of New Orleans. She'd been there for years. Everyone still saw her as a child. It was only a matter of time before people came and burned that house down anyway.
Mm.
She had to get out. She had to be free. Good for Claudia. It's just a shame that it ended the way that it did. But Jacob Anderson is absolutely devastating in this scene. And the music is really distressing too. And it's things like this that just make me so furious that award shows never really look at genre. It's like you're allowed one. One is allowed to get through. You know what I mean? So we can have Emmy Madison win for weapons, but like that's your lot. That's all we're going to have now for the next decade. And God forbid we should have multiple horror, nominees in a category. Despite the fact that horror is consistently, you know, the bravest in terms of being queer, in terms of having female voices, indigenous voices behind the camera, in terms of diversity and everything else, we're still seeing it as this cute little niche thing. What I found particularly distressing about this episode is that when Louis does commit suicide or tries to commit suicide, Armand is just fucking done. There's no sweet, fluffy little nursemaid here. He's just done. He's like, I'm tired of cleaning up your mess. You've chosen to walk into the sun instead of me, instead of being with me. Please enjoy your absolute screeching agony while I go and torture Daniel in the other room for days. I kind of don't really know how anyone watched this episode and was like, hey, I'm fairly sure we're going to get to the end of the season and discover that Armand is absolutely a romantic hero.
Yeah, because his treatment of Louis with not, I mean, I kind of get it from a point of view of like the fight that they've had, and time works differently for vampires. So what would, in the heat of a moment in an argument between like a human couple, be, a few hours to cool down, he obviously needs, a longer time before he's willing to kind of go back to, the status quo of pretending again. But it is his torment of Daniel and like picking through his brain and pulling out all of the worst things that he's ever done. That is just, yeah, that's really it.
I mean, you can see I've written here, Armand is not a well boy. And he's not. I mean, it's the coldness. It's the coldness because, Louis is on that bed screeching in agony. He refuses to put him in the coffin for days, which would accelerate his healing because he's done. He doesn't give a fuck anymore. Louis can sit there and screech in agony for all he cares. He knows that Louis is going to heal. He knows that Louis is not in any immediate danger and that Louis will heal. He just doesn't feel the need to particularly assist that right now. So he's busy telling Louis while he's screaming in agony, well, the floor slants slightly north. We should probably fix it up before we sell it. It's like, Armand, this is not your priority right now. We should not be focusing on the floor. And then, yeah, this is when we discover that Louis is effectively a serial killer in San Francisco in the 70s, that he has murdered 128 people, which in the lifespan of Louis is probably a drop in the ocean. He's probably snuffed down on thousands by that point. But this is specifically 128 gay men that he has brought to various different flats and drained. That's a bit icky.
Mm.
Louis was presumably the boogeyman to gay men in the 70s. Little, the tale that went round about, sometimes if you go off with a cutely dressed guy, you might not be coming back. But it is the background of Louis screeching in agony while Armand is tormenting Daniel. It's just so upsetting. And he just keeps repeating, do you find me, is that what makes you fascinating? Ooh, it's very upsetting. Upsets Daniel enough that he has to say in the present day, fuck your boyfriend, and Louis has to bring him to his Zen garden, which may work for Louis, but very clearly does absolutely nothing for modern day Daniel. And yeah, I mean, Assad is absolutely incredible in this scene, but he is absolutely terrifying. We have Louis begging to be put in the coffin, which it takes him forever to do. I mean, if we assume that Daniel is recollecting things as he goes along, Louis was like dumped on that bed and just left for days. And then he finally decides to be, the beneficent, savior and put him in the coffin, which he could have done days before, could have saved his agony, could have saved everything, but he's still too angry. It's all, again, it is a repetition of the violence that Louis endured at Lestat's hands when he tried to leave him. It's the same thing. Louis here has tried to leave him. And so Armand is basically saying, if you wanted an escape from this prison of empathy, kind of all you had to do was ask. Because Armand is strong enough that he can just rip Louis' head off without even blinking.
Mm.
But again, he doesn't want that. This is his little pet to keep. And then we have the scene, which is horribly cruel to both of them, where he contacts Lestat, but only shares half of what Lestat is saying.
Yeah.
Because obviously there is absolutely nothing, no way in hell that Armand is going to repeat to Louis that Lestat loves him. Happy to use it as an argument, as, ammunition, but not happy to actually say it while he's suffering and in pain. So he tortures Louis by contacting Lestat, who at that time Louis still hates him because he thinks he killed Claudia, and then simultaneously tortures Lestat by cutting him off mid-flow, not sharing his words, presumably leaving Lestat with the impression that Louis is dead.
Mm.
Just all round a terrible cunt. Sorry to the Armand lovers, but my God. And then we just get him back to being so self-serving, saying, "You left me for death. Have I crawled an inch forward? Have I atoned for my part in Paris?" No, no, you have not. Remotely, not even slightly, not in a million trillion years, Armand. But obviously, at this part, as a linear watcher, you don't know what he is atoning for. You know that Claudia is not in this episode. We don't necessarily know that Claudia is gone, even though she very, very clearly is. But he then goes from that to trying to kill Daniel. And he and Assad and Luke Brendanfield do have really lovely chemistry, I think. With the line that a lot of people have had tattooed on them, which is, "I am the quiet you've been longing for." Anyone comes to me with that kind of line is going to be told to fuck off, but it clearly worked on a mesmerized and very drugged up Daniel. But he has been tortured for days. And then just as he is trying to basically coax Daniel into death in the exact way that Santiago coaxes his victims in the play, Louis stops him. But what I found fascinating is that the second Louis stops him, he subverts to his sub role. You've just spent days torturing Louis. You've spent days torturing Daniel. And then you go back to playing Louis being maitre. Going, "Oh, is that an order?" "Yes, it's a fucking order." It's just, oh, he's so fucked up. He's so fucked up. Like, why are we even cosplaying as the slave in this? Or is it just that it's all so fucked in his head that when he's finally given a direct order from Louis, like, "Don't kill Daniel, leave him be," he does it? It's just, yeah, incredibly upsetting. And then Louis decides to send Daniel on his way with some reassuring words of advice, which, from a vampire who tried to commit suicide 3 days ago, must have been spectacularly worthless. Which Daniel says that he thought came from a freebaser in the book. Um, but yeah, I mean, it is an incredible episode. I mean, it is like, a very self-contained episode. I can't think what they used to call them now, but that almost feels like filler, but it's not, in that it has so much emotional richness for all the characters. I love that Daniel says he destroyed 2 marriages. Well, actually, you're about to destroy 3, so you're doing well, babes. You're doing good. It's two. You've only destroyed 2 marriages at this point, but give you a couple more days. It's going to be 3.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the problems with me when I first watched it was it is a great episode, but I think because we've been left on such a cliffhanger in the
Yeah,
previous episode, I do not wish to be taken back on a little side quest. Like I want to know
yeah.
what
I mean,
happens
it's an
there. So I kind
interesting
of feel like the
one. Mm,
positioning I think is what I struggled with on my initial watch through. It's fine on the second watch through because like
yeah,
obviously I have the answers to where this is going. And it's nice to kind of see it from here, like you say, with Armand's line about, have they atoned enough and stuff. It kind of makes, more sense again, as so much with this show when you go back to it does. But yeah, I think that was my main issue was its placement because I've read the book, I've seen the film, I know that Claudia does not make it, and we was on our way to that in the last
Yeah.
episode, and now now I've got to wait at least an hour before I can get to the next episode, or a week if I'm watching this live.
Yeah, I mean it was a bold creative decision to stall the momentum, the narrative momentum of the series stone dead and choose to be like, well, okay, we've left you on a cliffhanger. You know that Santiago now has Claudia's diaries, which are going to reveal the truth about Lestat, which you already knew. We knew he already knew. They all already knew. Um, and we still don't know to what extent if Roland makes me a liar by saying that they had Lestat for months while Louis and Claudia was there. Well, then all I can say is, Roland, you're not the visionary I thought you were, because clearly that's the way to go. But we'll soon see. We'll soon see. But yes, it does stall all momentum stone dead to give you this very self-contained, very chilling, very emotional episode. I mean, the end of the episode in which Armand repeats word for word what Louis said earlier about him preserving Louis' happiness is gives you a full body chill. It's really, really unpleasant. So we know by the end of this episode that, again, if you'd never read anything or didn't understand anything, you would know by the end of this episode that there is something very, very wrong with Armand.
Yeah, I was going to say there is at least that in kind of, I was going to say rewind, but it's in fast forwarding, ahead to the 70s and seeing this, because all we've really seen of, the Armand in Paris is this, fluffy little teddy bear that's trying to, win
Yes,
over
he's so
Louis. So
cute.
by seeing him in this episode, it does then enable you to start casting doubts and hearing him say, "Have I atoned for Paris yet?" You kind of
Mm.
then start to scrutinize him and his actions going forwards, which if you didn't have this episode here, you wouldn't have done.
And I think as well, a lot of the costuming decisions in 1940s have either been to slightly put him in oversized clothes or very, very svelte silhouettes that have all aimed to kind of make him look quite fragile
Yeah.
because Assad is, he's a very svelte man. He's got these massive eyes, particularly when he's got the very bright, striking orange contacts in. And he's not really been seen as much of a threat. I mean, we know he kills people, obviously, but really, so far, Santiago has been the biggest threat to the extent that they're all calling him Mater fine, but we've not really, well, apart from him threatening Claudia, which unfortunately every single man in her life threw her against the wall by her neck at some point. Um, we've not seen him be this much of a threat. But in this episode, it is the quiet and the calm that makes him so deeply unsettling because, he doesn't raise his voice. I mean, even in the argument, he matches Louis, but in everything subsequent with Daniel, it's all very quiet, all very monotone, all very well. If you wanted to escape this prison of empathy, basically, if you want me to kill you, all you had to do was ask. And then he tries to basically drug Daniel into death. And yeah, it's the first point at which I think you see him as the very, very, very real threat that he is. And a significant threat to Daniel's life, but also a huge threat to Louis. And we're left, obviously, with no idea what's happened. So we now know that we didn't know before. We now know that Lestat is alive, which I suppose this is the first time, because obviously up until this point, we know he's alive because we think he is, but we don't know it for sure because Armand has warned Louis going anywhere near Roger again. So this is the first time that we, the viewer, get like concrete evidence that yes, Lestat did indeed escape survived the attempt on his life and is still alive in the 1970s. But only for him to be met with this, immediate cruelty of him not passing his message on. So again, as a viewer, you're a bit like, wait, Lestat's declaring his undying love? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was great because, I mean, for a lot of us, the only sort of filmed version of this we've seen is, the Neil Jordan version.
Yeah, and the interview segments in the Neil Jordan film aren't particularly riveting. I mean, they were the reason that I watched the film because they had Christian Slater in, and I was fully on board to see Christian Slater. Very disappointed by the fact he gets about 8 minutes of screen time. And so it is not to get to see, the interview done with a bit more panache and a bit more happening. Obviously not so fun for this Daniel Malloy. And Christian Slater had it a lot easier.
Yeah, Christian Slater just got munched on by Lestat at the end with probably my favorite Tom Cruise Lestat line, which is Louis, Louis, always whining Louis, which is true because the Brad Pitt Lestat Louis, sorry, is just an abomination. Just a whiny, wet blanket of nothingness. Yeah. But yeah, you chatted to Neil Jordan recently, didn't you?
Did he is a very brunt blunt. Yeah, he's a very blunt man. He did not mince his words. He has seen bits of the TV show, which he enjoyed. It's just he's not sort of kept up with it. His big qualm, which is something I know that he's spoken about in, I think, in Reddit, Ask Me Anything, is that he really likes how the show push the queerness that he basically alluded that he was not allowed to do with his film. He
Yeah.
was like, my film is quite faithful to the book in terms of the
Mm.
relationship because, Anne Rice herself kind of kept the more overt queerness, under wraps. But he was quite happy to see that the TV series has, expanded to, the times have changed that, they can be openly queer, but he does have a problem with Claudia being aged up. And his main thing was the whole thing, we discussed before, they have a child to save a marriage, but she's not really a child. And that's his
Mm.
his sticking point is if you're going to have a child to save a marriage, it should be a child, not a teenager. A teenager isn't quite the same as having a child. And, he's just like it's not as striking an image seeing a teenager because she is as a teenager she is still so close to womanhood than like what, a 6-year-old I think she is in the book. So
I can see his point. I think it would have been near impossible to have had
oh
a child
yes.
in this. I mean, I just don't see how it would have worked. Plus, they obviously wanted, and we've spoken at length about our qualms with the Bruce storyline, which I suspect is reoccurring this season. But you couldn't have had a 6-year-old do that. Jesus.
No, and also I think the issue as well with just I mean, society has always had a certain subset of people, but obviously we are more aware of them now. And I kind of think that giving a young child a storyline where they're desperate to be seen as a woman and things and
Yeah,
a woman's
yeah,
mind trapped in a child's body, we're getting into some really really grim territory. I mean, look at the whole fallout of Euphoria with Sydney Sweeney's character dressing up as a
yeah.
as a
There's
as
the
a
baby.
baby.
Yeah.
So I don't think they would have like been able to do
No.
it. But yes, once I have filtered through everything that he said that he probably wasn't allowed to share, um, it will be on THN. One thing he did allude to was that the popularity of the TV show has meant that Warner's, for years, he's been trying to get a new version of Interview with the Vampire released, or at least the deleted scenes that he
Mm.
shot released, and it seems that the popularity of the TV show has made Warner's a little bit more open to the idea of doing something. So I imagine in the not too distant future, we may get a 4K Interview with
Oh,
the
that's cool.
Vampire um, with those deleted scenes. So I know that there was a couple from what I've read that he was quite sad to miss, and I think they would have maybe given Louis a little bit more than whining. So we'll wait
He
and
did
see.
do, I mean, I don't know if it was a film test, but they did do the completely desiccated like Lestat, which we only see in glimpses in it. Um, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, I just think Brad Pitt is terrible in the film, but obviously you have Kristen Dunst and Tom Cruise acting their souls out. So it'd be interesting to see a 4K or particularly a director's cut in the way that he wants it to be done. I mean,
Mm.
this 4K thing, not everything can be restored to 4K. A lot of stuff was shot on in a way that is not necessarily going to be, technically that much different. But yeah, exciting. And then we have, obviously, we are pretty much a month now, a month to air. So the promo has started, which is exciting. There is going to be a screening of the episode plus, well, a concert. Let's be realistic here, guys. It's going to be one or two songs. It's going to be one or two songs, one of which I am fairly sure would be a ballad because it's going to be the easiest thing to do. By Sam Reid, and everybody has applied for tickets, so may the odds be ever in your favor. And it airs, first episode airs on the 8th of June on AMC, and we've started to get more promo, all of which I think is horrifically misleading, I must be honest, because the promo's all like, hey, I'm a vampire. Isn't it great? Yay, rock star, shiny. Like, if you read the Vampire Lestat, I mean, I cannot count how many times the man cries, and that was in like the first 5 chapters. I mean, in between, signs of him being, scenes of him being delighted by humans and looking at the little toesies on rats, he's also being mercilessly beaten by his father, mercilessly beaten by his brothers, incestual relationship with his mother, kidnapped by Magnus from his first very happy relationship with Nikki, uh, presumably raped, which we don't know to what extent, but I just don't see the point of doing the Claudia Bruce storyline if it's not going to be a direct parallel. So I'm assuming that they're going to be explicit with that. And then Nikki demands to be made a vampire. Mother gets made a vampire, promptly abandons him. Worst mother in the world. That's my favorite thing about Armand the hater. That even when he, like we've already seen the clip where Lestat says he was Lelio, not the Harlequin, which we all knew. But Armand's ultimate like hater thing is the fact he doesn't mention Gabriella at all. He knows Gabriella was around. He knows Gabriella was with Lestat. He just hates her so much he completely erases her from the narrative. Um, and then we don't know what we're doing with Louis' storyline, but I imagine, I mean, at New York Comic Con, he said a really powerful line, which is that you can hang the picture on the wall, you can hang the dress on the wall, but that doesn't stop the fact that your child has died. So I imagine Louis' storyline is all going to be about grieving Claudia while kind of in possession of the full facts, I guess, as
Mm.
well as expanding his capitalist kingdom. And I imagine finding and massacring Bruce. We've already seen in the clips Louis literally like cutting some guy's head off. Good for you, Louis, my little feral king. So yeah, the promo so far has all been quite funny and happy, happy, joy, joy, and stuff like that. And I think it's going to be a rough season. I mean, at the upfronts, they said that it was going to be a devastating season, and then of course that's before we even get to Akasha.
Yes.
I cannot wait to see Sheila in that role. I think she's going to be incredible. I'm going to be intrigued to see how much we get of Akasha, because obviously she only attacks at the one concert and there's many here. But yeah, it's all very exciting, very thrilling. I wish that they would do more promo worldwide rather than just in New York, but such is life.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously it's releasing in June, but it's releasing in America in June.
Yes, we should say it's releasing in America in June, but the internet is a wonderful place.
And, for those people that are really confused as to how AMC have got it before Netflix, AMC have always had it before Netflix. It's just people have not sorted it out. By the time it comes to Netflix, it's already been and gone a long time ago on AMC. So, maybe if you've been tuning into it on AMC originally, we might, be somewhat maybe either a bit further along or the show would have a bit more money because yes, it is not a Netflix original show, guys. It is something that they acquired from AMC.
So yeah, AMC will have it first. Before it actually starts airing, we have the Vampire Lestat After Dark, which is presumably what Sam and Jacob were filming in Georgia earlier this year, which will be, I'm guessing, the first episode airs before the series, so it must be like a look back, but it's going to be basically, I'm guessing, short commentary from them on the episodes as they air and a look back at the previous season. For British viewers, I am sure that if the BBC are picking it up, that it will hit what, October, I'm imagining.
So season one started, I think season one started in December. And then season two was October. So I imagine, given how the show just keeps going from strength to strength, I imagine that October would be the latest. October because it's a horror show. The BBC are
Yeah.
quite literal with when they show things. Oh, it's horror. It goes on in October, but we could get it as early as I guess September, maybe August. But I would imagine that when the BBC bought the rights to the first season, it was, for in perpetuity. I don't think it's going to be changing transmission anytime soon. But hopefully the BBC will, get a hurry on so that more people in the UK can see it through legal channels. But yes, otherwise, as Naomi said, the internet is, there's lots of things on there if you look, know where to look.
It's a wide and highly informative place. I think we'll leave it there. And I think AMC Plus has, which you could probably access through a VPN as well. I think it currently has a deal on, should anyone want to get that, because I think obviously as they've got new content hitting that they know is going to be popular, I think they do currently have a deal on at the moment. So it might be worth checking that out. But yes, it will be hitting June the 8th. Very excited. Excited to see all the promo. Might be full on crying, devastated if I don't get to go into the concert, but we'll survive. We'll be strong. And yeah, obviously we will be recapping the episodes once they land. We will be ready for you. We will be doing all of them. And we will also be covering it in print form for the Hollywood News, which will put all of the links in the show notes.
Yeah, but obviously before that, we do still have some more of season two to get through.
Yes, including the trial.
We're getting so close to the trial now. We
The
basically put the trial off for about we
trial.
basically put covering the trial off for about
Too
8 months,
devastating.
and we're
Too devastating. Too devastating for my small heart to cope with.
I am not ready for
The
the
reunion.
yeah. And I think that was what was rough in rewatching in rewatching this episode is because you see you suddenly understand the Lestat part of
Yes.
that conversation. So yes, but we do still have a couple of episodes
Yeah.
before we are unintelligible for an episode.
Unintelligible sobbing. Yeah, it'll be fine. We'll be fine.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll get the little AI assistant to like make something up for what we're actually saying. But yes, we will be back with episode 6, like the light by which God made the world before he made light. And that will only be said once on the next episode because that is a
Jesus.
tongue twister and a half. But yes, until then, please do give us a like, rating, and follow wherever you are hearing us from. There are links to where to find us in all of the show notes. We have an email. Please do get in touch.
Yes,
Or
drop us your theories, your notions, whatever you fancy.
yeah, drop us what your favorite The Vampire Lestat song is so far. There's a
Mm,
few out there on Spotify. We would like to. I mean, that's maybe something that we can do. Through the Vampire Lestat thing, we'll do like some sort of like ranking of the songs and see.
mm.
Uh, because the IMDb rankings won't be there, so we need a ranking. But yes, until next we meet. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you. Bye.